What you're about to see was captured 80 feet beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean. The diver behind the camera had minutes of air left, and something was hunting him. Guadalupe Island, a remote volcanic pinnacle rising from the Pacific floor. It is a sanctuary, a hunting ground, and one of the world's most important great white shark research sites. For the animals that gather here, it is the perfect ecosystem. And for wildlife photographer Christian Marcoux, it was another day documenting the ocean's most misunderstood predator. Christian had logged over 2,000 hours with great whites. He knew their rhythms, their body language, their moods. Today's dive had been textbook. The sharks were active, drawn by the island's rich seal colonies. The largest female and nearly 1-ton animal the research team had tagged as matriarch seemed particularly curious. But as she made a slow pass, turning her flank toward his lens, the perfect shot became a portrait of violence. It wasn't a scar, it was a bite. Recent, hours, perhaps minutes old. A wound of this magnitude on an apex predator is extraordinarily rare. But it was the geometry of the injury that stopped Christian cold. Experienced researchers can analyze bite wounds to estimate an attacker's size. Minor territorial disputes between 15-foot sharks leave crescents 8 to 12 inches across. This wound was nearly double that. The mathematics were simple and unsettling. To inflict this kind of damage required an animal significantly larger than its victim. A shark in the 22 to 25-foot range. Larger than any great white in the scientific record. But the wound wasn't what concerned Christian most. It was matriarch's behavior. A 15-foot great white shark has no natural predators. She should have been languid, dominant, unconcerned. Instead, her movements were tight, defensive. Her head swept side to side in constant surveillance. She was acting like something that expected to be attacked. Christian had seen this before the sudden evacuation that precedes the arrival of a larger predator. In his experience, even orcas didn't clear an area this completely. He forced himself to slow his breathing. Panic burned air. He checked his dive computer. 82 feet down. Air at 42%. Plenty for a standard ascent, if it stayed standard. The research protocol was clear. If a diver missed their scheduled check-in, the surface team would begin engine startup as a recall signal at the 45-minute mark. Christian had been down for 38 minutes. 7 minutes until his crew would know something was wrong. Something was rising from the deep channel, and Matriarch, the wounded titan beside him, turned and fled. 80 feet is a manageable depth. A controlled descent with proper safety stops takes roughly 4 minutes. An emergency bolt to the surface takes 30 seconds, but risks decompression sickness. Nitrogen bubbles forming in the bloodstream, joint damage, paralysis, death. Christian would later describe the next 3 minutes as the longest of his life. He forced himself to maintain ascent protocol, 15 feet per minute, no faster. He counted his breaths. This wasn't a shark preparing to feed. This was an animal assessing a situation, and that kind of patience suggested intelligence or something he didn't want to name. 40 feet. 2 minutes of decompression. An eternity. Great white sharks are not pack hunters. They don't coordinate. They don't strategize. What Christian observed in those 2 minutes defied everything he knew about the species. The animal had repositioned. It was no longer directly below him. His camera swept the water, finding nothing but empty blue in every direction. Then he looked up. Whether by instinct or intelligence, the predator had executed a flanking maneuver. Christian was now trapped between the reef below and an animal larger than his research vessel's rigid inflatable. His air was running critical. His check-in window had passed, and then, faintly, distantly, he heard it. The recall signal. His crew had started the engines. It wasn't much, but it was something, and that's when he saw it clearly for the first time. It was a great white shark. Familiar in form, utterly different in scale. Later analysis would estimate its length at between 22 and 24 feet, weight approximately 5,000 pounds. It was, by a significant margin, the largest great white shark ever captured on film. But in that moment, Christian wasn't calculating measurements. He was watching an apex predator decide whether he was worth the effort. He had, at most, 3 minutes of air remaining. The shark showed no signs of leaving. The research vessel was repositioning, searching for their overdue diver. The engine noise grew louder, more insistent, and the great white, with the slow deliberation of an animal that has never been challenged, turned away. Christian didn't wait. He exploded from the crevice and kicked for the surface, abandoning his final safety stop. It was a calculated risk. Mild decompression sickness versus drowning. He collapsed on the deck, his tank showing zero usable air. He would spend 4 hours in a hyperbaric chamber treating mild joint pain, a minor case of the bends. A small price. Dr. Elisa Chen, a marine biologist specializing in apex predator behavior, reviewed Christian's footage within 48 hours of his rescue. Her analysis was unambiguous. The bite wound geometry, tooth spacing, depth of penetration, radius of the crescent pointed to an animal in the 22 to 24-foot range. What Christian captured wasn't sensor error or perspective distortion. It was the largest great white shark ever documented on film. Equally significant was the behavioral footage, the sustained shadowing, the apparent repositioning. Dr. Chen had never seen anything like it. Whether this represented learned behavior, unusual intelligence, or simply an artifact of the animal's size and confidence remained unknown, but it was extraordinary. The research team named the shark Colossus. Subsequent tagging efforts in the Guadalupe region revealed a consistent pattern. When acoustic monitors detected Colossus in an area, other tagged sharks, including large adult males, relocated to different zones. The hierarchy was absolute. Matriarch was observed 2 weeks later near the island's shallow seal colonies. Her wound was healing. She was alive, but she had learned to fear the deep. Christian's encounter pulled back a curtain on a world we thought we understood. It proved that even in the 21st century, with satellites and sonar and a century of marine research, our planet's oceans still hold secrets. It also offered a reminder. Great white sharks are not monsters. They are not villains. They are ancient, essential, and increasingly endangered. Encounters like Christian's are extraordinarily rare. Most divers will never see a shark at all, let alone be approached by one. Guadalupe Island remains one of the safest places in the world to observe these animals, and its protected status has allowed populations to slowly recover. But in the deep channels, where the light fails and the pressure builds, there are always older things, larger things, waiting, watching, reminding us that the ocean is not ours. If this story stayed with you, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the unknown. Drop a comment below. What do you think Colossus was doing down there? Curiosity? Territory? Something else? Let us know.